is the best!
Hey guys, welcome back to math class. Today we're going to be continuing on with circle graphs. This time we're going to be talking about how to actually use the information when we are given a complete graph. So we end up setting up our table just to find out all the possible information that we want. The only thing that's different is we don't include the angle because we would only use that when we were actually creating it. So we still have our category, votes, fraction, decimal, and our percent. As usual, what we do is we just start by filling in whatever information we know. So we start with our percents. We know purple is 20%, blue is 25%, and red is 15%. From there, what we can do is we can figure out the percentage of green just by the missing amount. So percentages out of 100%. So we just take 100, subtract 15, 25, and 20, and we end up getting 40. The last piece of information that the graph gives us is that green has 32 votes, so we can go ahead and fill that in. And we remember that mathematicians are lazy, so whenever you can, you always start with the easiest piece of information to work out. So we can start with our decimals, because we remember turning a percent into a decimal is just simply dividing it by 100 or moving the decimal 2 places to the left. So we start with 15%, we end up getting 0.15, 25%, 0.25, 20%, 0.2, and 40% is 0.4. Our next step is to figure out how many votes total we're given. So what we know is that we have the number of green votes and we have the percentage that the green vote is. So we can start by filling in that equation. So we end up with total number of votes multiplied by 40%, or 0.4, is equal to 32, and we have a one-step equation. So just like we practiced, we do the opposite operation of both sides. So we end up dividing both sides by 0.4, or 40%, which gives us an answer of 80. Now that we have the total number of votes, it's fairly simple. All we do is take the total and multiply it by the percent as a decimal, and we can get the number of votes for each of the missing pieces. So we end up taking 80, multiply it by 0.15, gives us 12. Take 80, multiply it by 0.25, it ends up giving us 20. Take 80, multiply it by 20%, ends up giving us 16. And we already know what green is. Our last step here is just to fill in the fraction section. So for red, we end up with 12/80ths. Blue, we end up with 20/80ths. Purple is 16/80ths, and green is 32/80ths. Now, if you need a specific ratio, you can simplify these, but for our case here, we would just leave it like this, just that way it's easier to compare the numbers. So, you won't always need to make the chart. If you're asked just for one specific question, it's fairly simple just to go ahead and find it using all of the same information, just for one question. However, if you're asked several questions about one graph, it's just kind of nice to lay it out in a chart, just to simplify the way that you're doing everything. Hopefully you learned a few things. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to message me, and we will see you next math lesson.
Oh no, it's over.